Tonight, work finally begins on much anticipated overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta, and far north GPs fear a critical shortage in local doctors will lead to even longer wait times for patients.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. After years of political squabbles and delays, work has finally begun on overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta. The multi-million-dollar project is all in a bid to improve safety and reduce traffic congestion.
It's a small start, but a start nonetheless, as work officially began on the much-promised and much-debated highway upgrade. Overtaking lanes on the Lincoln Highway, which will connect Whyalla and Port Augusta, are now underway.
It's anticipated that the 3 overtaking lanes that are going to be built will be finished, weather permitting, by the halfway through the year.
Lucas Engineering has been awarded the $4 million contract. 2 will be built on the highway, with the first one being constructed at Mile Creek, about halfway between the two towns. 1 will also be built between Port Augusta and Port Pirie. The local member says the lanes will help increase safety as more vehicles travel between the 3 cities.
Army exercises, and so you get quite a few trucks on the road, and a few of the other activities that might come to the fore will also increase the intensity of vehicles.
The jointly funded Commonwealth State project hasn't been without hurdles since being announced 2 years ago. Both sides have accused each other of holding it up, leaving both councils frustrated, but now a sigh of relief.
So it will help, it will add to the convenience and maybe make it safer as well.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Port Augusta medical staff say the region is still suffering from a 6-year-long GP shortage. They're pointing the finger at a federal government classification which labelled the area as not having a problem.
The amount of GPs on the ground in Port Augusta isn't quite adding up.
It just doesn't make sense why in the last few years, when we've had less and less doctors here, that those numbers are not adding up in their computer for it to recognise that we are short of doctors.
It's understood Port Augusta currently has 10 full-time equivalent GPs compared to 21 6 years ago. Local health authorities say a federal health department label showing Port Augusta has enough is to blame.
A number of years ago, the Medicare eligibility for Port Augusta changed such that it was no longer designated a district of workforce shortage.
While local GP Amanda Bethel says the Port Augusta hospital remains well staffed, the GP shortage has left those wanting appointments waiting for weeks.
Both for the doctors and for the receptionists, the nurses, and of course for the people who are trying to get appointments. When we had 21 doctors in town, you pretty much could just ring up and get an appointment on the day or the next day to get whatever it was seen to. Now, it's several weeks to see some people.
The classification changes every February, and this year's label for Port Augusta is set to be revealed within weeks. If it remains unchanged, Mrs Bethel says she'll be demanding answers.
Obviously, a town to survive needs a really good health service, and primary care general practice is an essential part of a good health services.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
The state government has shown its support to farmers across the mid-north by funding an automatic weather station network. It follows a trial of the network at Hart last year. Rachel Nell explains.
The state-of-the-art technology will provide vital information for those living in remote areas across South Australia to help them better prepare for weather events. 40 solar-powered weather stations will be installed across the state. 14 will be based in the mid-north, 9 in the Clare Valley and 4 in the northern Yorke Peninsula. These stations will provide farmers and emergency services with accurate, localised and real-time weather data ranging from temperature and airflow. These stations will also help farmers avoid spraying pesticides when spray drift is likely to occur, which is estimated to destroy around $178 million worth of crops each year. And with the food many of us put on the table each night coming from our region, local member Jeff Brock says the network of automatic weather stations is a critical investment to ensure our producers will have the necessary data to make informed decisions in managing their properties into the future. It's hoped by July 2019 a weather data website will be up and running for growers to access, with the first 4 stations expected to be installed by the middle of this year. The automatic weather station will be fully operational by September 2019.
Whyalla police are investigating a break-in at a local restaurant over the weekend. Just after 2 a.m. on Saturday, 2 men gained entry to the eatery in the ABC village before they were disturbed. The pair were seen making off with alcohol and were described as being between 165 and 170 centimetres tall, skinny, and both wearing dark hoodies. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. And police are also investigating damage to a property in Whyalla Jenkins. Just before 10 a.m. last Saturday, 2 boys were seen running from the backyard of a home on Robinson Street. Police later found 2 smashed doors and a smashed window. The boys are described as being about 10 years of age and of Aboriginal appearance. Hometown favourites Lindsay Thomas and Sam Gray have returned to the Eyre Peninsula for Port Adelaide's annual community camp. Thomas is ready to make an impact this season, issuing a challenge to a former Mallee Park teammate.
Back on the turf where it all began.
I played in a premiership here with Eddie in 2001. I'm on this very oval.
Lindsay Thomas returning to Port Lincoln for the first time since being drafted by the Power.
Been away for 12 years, and to be able to come back to my home state and finish my career here is it's a dream come true.
Now in the twilight of his career, Thomas is under no illusions he'll need to earn his spot against his younger teammates, but he's happy taking pointers.
You know, it's tough, I won't lie. You know, I've just been watching, observing, trying to hang on to guys like Robbie, Sam Gray and Chad Wingard and pick their brains about how the way that Kent wants us to play. And
another new face at Alberton has also been receiving advice from old shoulders.
Every coach has a different style, and Brisbane's probably got a developing list where Port's list is a little bit older.
Former Brisbane skipper Tom Rockcliffe is still adjusting to his new home.
Getting used to the training and the running and all the different, I suppose, systems in style, and Ken's a really good operator.
But even he was surprised by the leadership call-up.
A complete shock, just went about my business and was lucky enough to be voted in by the boys, so I'm happy to help out in any capacity.
Former Crows champion Scott Thompson also sporting new colours, while Thomas says there will be no love lost for his former teammate Eddie Betts during the next showdown.
I'm his rival now, so look, it'd be great, I think, for Mallee Park, but when the time comes, hopefully we beat them.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
After the break, members of the Port Lincoln community put their heads together for a tourism brainstorm. The details next. Port Pirie Regional Council has announced a new CEO. Peter Ackland will be filling the shoes of Andrew Johnson, who at the end of last year indicated he'd be stepping down after being in the role for a decade. Mr Ackland hails from the Loxton Waikerie District Council. His start date will be announced in the near future. Councils, businesses and regional development have gathered in Port Lincoln for a think tank on a new tourism strategy. The industry has become an emerging market for the Eyre Peninsula, with industry leaders eager to capitalise.
Writing down a new direction for the EP.
What's changed, what's changing, and where do we need to change to?
Leaders across the Eyre Peninsula today sat down to brainstorm new ways to attract business to the region.
Tourism is not a mature industry. Tourism has got some real potential.
Councils, regional development and tourism operators are all vying for a slice of the $billion tourism pie to guarantee Port Lincoln's future.
It's vital, you know, it's new money to the town, and it's money that gets spread out across a lot of businesses and gets spent again and again and again.
Operators such as Calypso Star have helped market the region to the world and are opening up to help other industries grow.
They bring people from right around the world and they know their business, and this is the opportunity to work with them.
Working on who we are and what we stand for, because look, let's face it, if we don't know that ourselves, we can't expect to promote that to others.
The think tank is part of a long-term strategy to enhance the region's global potential.
We've got a lot of knowledge, we've got a lot of energy, and we've got a fantastic opportunity to pull all those operators together.
Predictions for the region in terms of growth are phenomenal, and we know we've got some of the best product in the world here, so the opportunities are just limitless.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
SABEST has pledged to increase cash injections into outback areas over the next 3 years. It's an election promise that the Outback Communities Authority says could double its capacity.
Spanning over 2/3 of the state, SA's Outback currently only receives $650,000 of government support a year.
Just can't keep operating the whole of the OCA and do all the things that people want us to do on the very limited budget that we have.
It's an amount SABEST is now promising to change.
We really want the OCA to grow. We don't want them to be hamstrung and held back. The people of the Outback are just as entitled to get the same services.
With a growing wish list requesting better roads, tourism, phone and internet services, the Outback Communities Authority Chair says the $9 million promise would double its capacity.
The OCA identified that they need about $1.6 million a year in addition to their current state appropriation funding to be able to go and deliver on these priorities and these plans.
If elected, SABEST would provide $3 million a year.
We would do by 2020 is actually have a complete network of all-weather airstrips, which means that we can actually ensure the flying doctors can get to people all the time.
A move which the Port Augusta-based candidate says will ensure the regions have a fair go.
We will also be releasing our regions policy and our agriculture policy within the coming week as well, which will further strengthen our argument that we are 100% committed to ensure regional South Australia gets its fair share.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Well, smart eating is on the menu in Broken Hill this week as local dietitians get behind a new health initiative. It's all aimed at helping locals live healthy lives, focusing on what they consume.
It's a small bit of advice that can make a huge impact.
Making sure that your nutrition is individualised for you, and that's smart eating.
Smart Eating Week launched around the country this week with thousands of dietitians joining forces to improve Australia's well-being.
Really looking at making sure people are setting specific goals and things that are relevant to them, and that's what we're talking about with smart eating, is making sure that the nutrition goals you have are relevant to you and your life.
We're all unique when it comes to our health and what we want to achieve, and that's where these professionals come in. Some of their handy tips include working in a side of veggies with lunch and dinner and keeping well hydrated.
Not to skip breakfast, that's always a big one. Making sure you're drinking water regularly. If you can, swap out water for Coke. Instead of snacking on chocolates, have a piece of fruit. Incorporate some more veggies into your diet.
And it's very easy to get started.
So if someone really wants to look at putting together an individualised nutrition plan, seeing a dietitian is your best bet.
You can also visit the Eat for Health website for more information on dietary guidelines, food essentials and eating well. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, preparations in full swing for the St Pat's Race Day in Broken Hill. The details next. Well, Broken Hill's St Pat's Race Day is fast approaching. Tickets are now on sale for the biggest event on the Silver City social calendar, and organisers say this year will be bigger and better.
Just over 4 weeks to go till Broken Hill is off and racing.
From here now through to the races, the office will be open, available.
Today saw the official opening of the St Pat's office on Crystal Street for the 53rd annual race meet. The Mayor doing the honours.
Once we open the office, you'll see people coming in and getting their membership. You'll see people starting to shop and buy their clothes. But it gets a buzz in the town, a buzz that we all love.
Organisers say there's a bit of tinkering happening out at the track as the racing club looks to improve on last year's meeting. A major focus will be offering more shade to racegoers if the mercury starts to climb.
Sales are going pretty well across the board, especially from the people who seem to make a regular habit of coming from interstate and out of town, and they get in early.
Organisers say they have no doubt 2018 will be a big one. As for the Mayor, she already has her ticket.
This is a year to come back. The weather's going to be glorious. The people there have a great time. And for anybody in the outer areas, come out to Broken Hill, come along to Broken Hill, come to St Pat's Race Meeting. You've heard about it on TV, you've read about it in our papers. It's time to come and experience it and come back again.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Turning to sport now, and there was a tie in Whyalla softball over the weekend with the Indians and Spears splitting the points. In a close contest, the two sides couldn't be split after 7 innings. John Hunt joins us with more. John, it's a surprise result heading into the finals.
Correct, Fraser. As we head towards the finals, every result in every contest matters. In a must-win match, the Indians and the Spears played out a thrilling contest, eventually sharing the spoils. The 4-all draw between the two sides could be crucial in determining ladder positions ahead of finals time. In the other Whyalla softball match, the Tigers had a much easier ride, cruising to a 12-5 win over the Indians. While in Whyalla baseball, the Indians cruised to a 6-run win over the Roadrunners. In Port Pirie baseball, Chris Nankivell hit his second consecutive home run, as the Tigers had an easy win over the Panthers. And down in Port Lincoln softball, the Roadrunners eased to a win over the Eagles, cracking 30 runs on the way to victory. While in the other match, the Squaws had a slightly smaller but just as impressive 7-1 win over the Shields. We'll switch sports now and focus on basketball. In Port Augusta women's, Falcons Black were too good for Falcons Yellow, while Spartans Grey had an upset 51-35 win over Big Sister Spartans. Let's head to Port Lincoln now, and in the women's comp, Waybacks continue to show why they're top of the table, with a 27-point win over Tasmans. And in the men's, Rangers Blue had a close win over Peckers Green. First place Rangers White were too strong for the Sharks, while second place Peckers Yellow kept up the pressure on them, with a 16-point win over Lincoln South Yellow. So, Fraser, the next month is shaping to be a big one, as finals positions and premierships are determined. Don't forget cricket tips are back this Friday, with the weekly wraps back next Monday and Tuesday. And if you've got sports results you want to see on TV, drop us a line at localsport@sca.com.au.
Good on you, John. Thank you. Stay with us. After the break, we'll have all the local weather details with Abby, and the region's starting to heat up today, Abby.
Yes, Fraser, it warmed up a little bit, but it's looking like we'll have quite pleasant conditions for the rest of the week. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. Well, it was a hot one in Port Augusta today, 35 the top. A similar story in Whyalla. It was fine and 29 in Port Lincoln. It was sunny and hot in Broken Hill, 34 the max there, and it was the same in Port Pirie. On the satellite now, and patchy cloud crossing South Australia with a low pressure trough is triggering some light drizzle, while elsewhere it's generally dry. Taking a look at the waters for your hump day, we'll see southerly winds shifting southwesterly up to 20 knots, seas at a metre with a south-southwesterly swell, and the sun will pop up at 10 to 7 again. To tomorrow now, and it's said to be a hot night in Port Augusta with a low of just 21 before temps creep back up into the 30s. We'll see cloud cover and temps cool off slightly in Whyalla tomorrow, 28 the top, a refreshing 24 the top in Port Lincoln, while just 21 the top in Coffin Bay tomorrow, but we should still see plenty of sunshine, while it's going to be a scorcher in Broken Hill, 36 the max there, and we'll see quite a bit of cloud cover about in other centres with temps hovering around the mid to high 20s. To the rest of the week in the west, we'll see temps drop slightly tomorrow for all centres, and then temps will continue around the mid-20s to low 30s for the rest of the week, with lovely sunny conditions forecast all round, 27 the top for Port Lincoln on Saturday. Further up the Gulf, it cools down tomorrow, but it will still be warm as temps hover around the high 20s to low 30s for most of the week. We'll see sunny skies everywhere, but it does warm up again on Saturday, 34 the top for Port Augusta. And lastly, the cloud cover returns tomorrow, 30 the top for Port Pirie, but as mentioned, it's a sizzler in Broken Hill, 36 the max, and there won't be much relief over the rest of the week, but overall it's looking like pleasant temperatures with plenty of sunshine about, with temps in the high 20s for Clare on Friday and Saturday. So, Fraser, it's looking like lovely summery conditions for most districts this week.
Thank you, Abby. And that's Southern Cross News for this Tuesday. Thanks for your company. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.